Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Tyler and I just do consistent content, all things related to hockey and the NHL overall. And yes, I do understand the Stanley Cup playoffs did start. I'm currently watching the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Chicago Blackhawks game. It just started, so I understand some games transpired, including that ridiculous 5 overtime game between the Columbus Blue Jackets and Tampa Bay Lightning, in which I'll probably have a video out this same day, if not already, then definitely after this, reacting to that game, because wow, was that something. There's plenty to talk. But what I'll be doing for you in this video is I'll be giving you my predictions for this first playoff round for each series, my predictions, the reasoning as to why I think this certain team is going to prevail, and all the reasonings for that. But if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you end up enjoying this kind of hockey content. Thank you all so much for 300 subscribers. It means a lot to me. And without further ado, let's get right into it with our first series. Starting off, we have the first seed Philadelphia Flyers facing off against the 8th seed Montreal Canadiens. The Habs defied the odds. They had I don't even remember, chance of actually going into the playoffs, but they did it. They beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, so that's the reality. They are facing off against the Philadelphia Flyers, who have been steamrolling through the NHL for the entirety of the season and did not skip a beat, even being away for 4+ months of hockey, of course, coming back into the round robin and dominating. Really looking impressive. This series is going to be a lot of fun to watch. As we know, the Habs beat the Pens, in which I thought the Pens would be playing in this round, but because it's the Habs, I'm really intrigued. This is something we haven't seen, and I don't even know how long since the last time these two played in the playoffs against each other, if at all, but it's going to be a very fun series to watch. A very pesky team in the Montreal Canadiens, of course, having guys really stepping up. Younger guys, too, including Nick Suzuki, who really stood out to me in that qualifying round, more than I expected him to, and Carey Price playing on his head, proving that he is still one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, whether we like it or not. And that defense really looking sharp, led the way by their captain, Shea Weber. But then we have the Philadelphia Flyers, and boy, are they something. With Alain Vigneault in his first year as head coach, reminding me so much, honestly, as a Rangers fan, of the 2013-2014 Rangers, because Alain Vigneault, every single time he becomes a head coach for a new club, they do fairly well in their first season. And for the Rangers' case that year, they have a very similar style to what the Flyers I'm seeing now. A very balanced team when it comes to all 4 lines really rolling and making things happen. Defense is looking strong, and the goaltending is really looking fantastic with Carter Hart. But I really think the Flyers are going to have a deep run this year, so I fully expect them to win this series. I think they'll win this series in 6 games, but I think it will definitely be more intense than one would have expected it to be. The Habs won't surprise me at all if they say prevail, but I think the Flyers are going to have a deep run this year. They have it in them, between the likes of guys like Kevin Hayes, who's looking really strong in his debut season with, of course, the Philadelphia Flyers on that massive contract. Sean Couturier, who really deserves a sell. He's such an underrated player and really deserves more credit than he's been given in his entire career. Travis Konechny, who has been their best player all season long, and some younger guys in that lineup stepping up, and on that blue line led by none other than Ivan Provorov. They really have a lot of pieces to make things happen and make some noise as a younger team in the AHL as well. So I had the Philadelphia Flyers winning in 6 games, but I think it's going to be a very entertaining and fairly high scoring series too. I'm very curious to see how this Montreal team and defense is going to hold up, because if they play like they did against the Penguins, then the Flyers are definitely going to have their work cut out for them. But regardless, I do think at the end of the day, the Flyers will win the series in 6 games. Next up, we have the series in which 1 game was already played, and that was, of course, between the 2nd seed Tampa Bay Lightning and the 7th seed Columbus Blue Jackets. There is so much to talk about what happened in that first game between these two teams, but I'm going to compose myself. I'm going to save that for a separate video. But obviously, Tampa Bay won the first game of the series, but I'm really going to try to push that aside because I don't want to use any bias from the games that were already played. I don't think that would be fair for these predictions. So honestly, going into this series, I thought this would go either 2 ways, with this being the rematch between the 2 teams. Obviously, Tampa Bay being embarrassed, being the best team in the league last year, having the best regular season record in NHL history, just to be swept by Columbus while they still had Artemi Panarin, Matt Duchene, Ryan Dzingel, and Sergei Bobrovsky at the time. But being swept in those 4 games, this is a very different Columbus Blue Jackets team, but John Tortorella is still proving that he can get it done no matter who he's coaching, truly. The defense has looked fantastic, the goaltending is looking superb, and that offense is clicking when they need it to. But Tampa Bay, I think, is either going to come away victorious in Game 7 or Columbus Blue Jackets in Game 7. And I think for these predictions, it's definitely going to be heavy favorites when it comes to underdogs. I'm picking the Columbus Blue Jackets in 7 games. Now, you may call me crazy. You may be thinking, Tyler, they just lost in 5 overtimes. Braden Point scored the winner. I understand that. But I also understand how good of a coach John Tortorella is and how much his team is rallying around them right now. They are just playing lights out, really otherworldly given the type of roster that they have. One of the worst offenses in the entire NHL during the regular season is not stopping this team at all. And while I think Tampa has on paper the best team in all of the NHL, Columbus is going to give them everything they got like they showed in this first game. I think it was great for Tampa to win this first game. Look, they could very well end up winning this series, and good for them finally getting over that hump. I think it is a very realistic possibility. But at the end of the day, Columbus has just proven so much to me in such a short span of time, how composed they are and how much they are rallying around each other as an overall team, with Seth Jones, Zach Werenski on that defense. Oh my God, and that goaltending, everything. I just think at the end of the day, defense is going to prevail in this year's playoffs. So I'm picking Columbus. I'm holding my word in 7 games. Next up, we have the series of course, the 4th seed Boston Bruins facing off against the 5th seed Carolina Hurricanes. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, am I looking forward to this series. One of the series I'm most excited about in this first round of playoffs. They're facing off really just about in 10 minutes, actually. It's starting at 11 p.m. Eastern. So at the time of recording this, it hasn't even started yet. They were supposed to start at 8, but because of the Columbus game, that didn't even happen yet. We obviously know the results now, but until then, this has been something special. Carolina sweeping the New York Rangers. I can't thank Carolina enough as a Rangers fan because obviously what happened with the draft lottery. But look, this Carolina team I've been so impressed with for a year and a half, 2 years now. The bunch of jerks, whether it be the likes of Teuvo Teravainen, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, that defense, Dougie Hamilton is back in the lineup. Norris caliber defenseman right there. Jacob Slavin, the best defenseman in the league. And I will have a video just on him or that defense eventually because I got a lot to say about that defense. Oh boy. But they have so many pieces. Brett Pesce, even though he isn't in the lineup yet, when healthy, he's one of the top 10 shutdown stay-at-home defensemen in the league, even though he isn't in this, so I won't consider him here. But Brady Shea looking solid too. Of course, from the New York Rangers. Sammy Vatanen from the Devils looking strong, especially as a power play quarterback for them with Dougie Hamilton being out during the qualifying round. And they have so many other pieces just on that defense and that offense overall. And the goaltending between Mrazek and Reimer has looked stellar, at least from the qualifying round. So we'll see what happens in this series. But honestly, I'm picking the bunch of jerks. I know this may seem absurd. I have Boston realistically having a very deep playoff run, and rightfully so. Now, when it comes to Boston, I was thinking, they would either, not do great in this round robin, kind of hold everything off and really turn it on when playoffs start. But that is kind of a tough thing to do. It reminds me of the Tampa Bay Lightning last season when they really were not doing much towards the end of the year because they were already locked in. Their seed had the best regular season. They were sitting plenty of guys and just really weren't looking that great towards the end, knowing the fact that they were locked to have a deep playoff run, and obviously the opposite happened. I think whoever goes into the playoffs steamrolling has the better chance. See this evident with Columbus, even though they lost, but they're looking great still. And I think I'll see the same from the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm picking the Hurricanes in 7 games here, and look, nothing against Boston Bruins fans at all. It will not surprise me to see Boston have a deep playoff run. That is a given. You have the best goal scorer in the league in David Pastrnak right there. You have Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, the best line in the NHL, the best overall defense, shutdown defense in the NHL, and a goaltending tandem between Tuukka Rask and Yaroslav Halak that can get it done on any given night. They have the weapons. I understand that, but this Carolina team is just too fun to pass up and say no to. So I'm picking Carolina in 7 games, but boy, is this going to be a series to watch, so make sure you're doing so. And last but not least, from the Eastern Conference, we have the 3rd seed Washington Capitals facing off against the 6th seed New York Islanders. This is going to be a very interesting series between the two teams. They haven't, I don't even remember last time they played in the playoffs in all honesty, but this Islanders team beating the Florida Panthers in that qualifying round in pretty impressive fashion, shutting down that top 10 offense and of course the Florida Panthers. And while the Islanders haven't had a strong offense this year, they have prevailed at the end of the day. The defense has stood tall, along with Semyon Varlamov and net, really looking strong for them. This Islanders team, I think, is going to continue to prove people wrong, as they have the past couple of years. Barry Trotz, one of the best to do it when it comes to coaching, has the Stanley Cup on his resume. I think going up against his former team in the Washington Capitals, it's going to be bittersweet. but they're going to come out victorious in 7 games here. Now, you might be thinking I'm absolutely crazy. Why do you keep picking the underdogs here? I don't mean to. But going into this, I did not think the Capitals would get past the first round, pretty much regardless of who they faced. So I'm going to stand by that. And it's fine if I'm proven wrong. I perfectly understand that. Alexander Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Jason Verana, they have so many weapons. They have so many weapons. And that defense, Norris winner most likely this year, and John Carlson, Braden Holtby, who can get it done. But Holtby is the biggest question mark for me, because not having Ilya Samsonov, who is, of course, out for all playoffs on an undisclosed injury, I think that is really going to be worrisome when it comes to this Capitals team. Because if Holtby doesn't play up to par like he has in years prior in the playoffs, we have an issue. And if you remember in that Cap Stanley Cup run just a couple years ago, Holtby wasn't looking that great until really playoffs started. You know, he was having troubles during the regular season. Philip Grubauer was getting the bulk of the starts at certain moments. And then, of course, Holtby started to turn it on in playoffs. But regardless, I'm not confident in Holtby. I understand that he's playing for a new contract regardless if he gets re-signed by the Washington Capitals or hits free agency. He wants that big payday, so there is incentive there. But regardless of that, I honestly think the Caps aren't going to have a deep run this year. I just don't feel that confident like I have in recent years with them. So I'm picking the Islanders in 7. But look, this can go either way. It won't surprise me, as I've said with all these other series, to see the Caps prevail here. But at the end of the day, I think the Islanders really have a chip on their shoulder, have something to prove, really loving what some guys are doing, including Anthony Beauvillier. I think they can make some noise, some surprising noise. So I'm picking the Islanders in 7. Now on to the Western Conference, where we have the 1st seed Golden Knights versus the 8th seed Chicago Blackhawks. This is a hysterical series. The Chicago Blackhawks, going into the trade deadline, they didn't think they were going to have a deep playoff run or even make playoffs for that matter. So they trade away some guys, including the likes of Robin Lehner, who was without question the better goaltender between him and Corey Crawford. As we know, Crawford has dealt with injuries this year, is in the latter years of his career without question. And I really thought he would hang up the skates at the end of this year. But a lot has changed with all this unprecedented, odd times, if you will, with, of course, the ongoing pandemic, causing some teams to come out of the gate being 4 months out to really impress. And the Chicago Blackhawks have done just that since arriving in the qualifying round. Winning that series the way that they did was just simply phenomenal. Really was shocking to me, the fact that they beat the Edmonton Oilers, shutting down Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, not letting them get past them in that qualifying round, sending Edmonton home packing while playing in their home arena in Edmonton, in these bubble cities. Crazy. But Chicago looking strong with guys like Dominic Kubalik, of course, the rookie phenom. I've said so much about him. He's looking tremendous. Jonathan Toews is playing up to par, really playing up the goal scoring, which is amazing for the captain given the stage in his career. Patty Kane hasn't even fully turned it on yet. He's looking strong still. And that goaltending, Crawford has made the saves that he's needed to, which is huge. But this Vegas Golden Knights team, they just made the Cup a couple years ago. I know they've have had an up and down year, firing, of course, Gerard Gallant, bringing in Peter DeBoer, of all people, from the San Jose Sharks, of course. I'm picking the Vegas Golden Knights to win this series in 7, but I think it's going to be a good one. I think Robin Lehner, though, is going to really stand on his head. I believe Lehner will get the bulk of the starts in the series. We'll see what happens, but he has an amazing record against teams that he formerly played for, only having 1 regulation loss, and I believe over 10 games playing against his former team. So that is a very impressive stat there. I think Lehner's going to stand on his head and really prove why Chicago should have never considered trading him, even if they weren't going to consider re-sign him. You know, watching Lehner back during the regular season as a Blackhawk was giving them huge opportunities, a huge part of the reason why they're in this position to even make the qualifying round, because he won them games single-handedly with 35 to plus 45 save games. He was remarkable for them, and he has been lights out with Vegas in a short stint with them thus far. So look, Vegas Golden Knights, they got the weapons. They got Mark Stone, they got Max Pacioretty, they got Wild Bill, Wally Carlson, they have Nate Schmidt, they have Shea Theodore, who's a top 10 defenseman in the league this year. Quote me on that, it is true. And they have the goaltending tandem that looks like it is going to be the one to beat between him and Marc-Andre Fleury in this year's playoffs. So with that being said, Vegas Golden Knights in 7. Next up, one of the more intriguing series in this first round, the number 2 Colorado Avalanche facing off against the number 7 Arizona Coyotes. Will defense prevail again in this series? I'm not too sure. You have the Colorado Avalanche looking like a cup favorite this year with all the adversities, all the injuries that they have faced. Nathan MacKinnon led the way and looks like he can surely be a Hart winner this year. Obviously, I hope it's my guy Artemi Panarin, but I won't be bothered at all if it's Nathan MacKinnon. He had 40 more points than the second guy on that roster, and that second guy was, of course, Cale Makar, the rookie phenom on defense. Smooth skating, shoots the puck, elite playmaking ability. The future is unbelievably bright for Cale, and he's only getting started. But between that offense with guys like Andrei Burakovsky, of course, Nazem Kadri, seeing what he can do at a playoff level, we all know what he did in the qualifying round. Not qualifying round, in the, the pre-games, of course. Scoring that goal with 0.1 seconds left against the Blues. That was nuts. But you got a healthy Mikko Rantanen. You have, of course, Gabriel Landeskog, the captain. You have Jonas Donskoi. You have Andrei Burakovsky, I'm a huge fan of. You have JT Compher. You have all these guys. This is such a deep lineup. Vladislav Nemestikov to have in your top 9. Really solid. They just have so many weapons. That defense. Ryan Graves, Cale Makar, you name it. Nikita Zadorov. And, of course, you have Samuel Girard. A lot of great names. And that goaltending tandem between Grubauer and, of course, Pavel Francouz, who I believe is the better of the two in my opinion. That's enough for me. I'm picking Colorado to win this series in 6, but Colorado is going to have it tough. This defense that Arizona contains is immaculate, honestly, between the guys of like Jacob Churchrin, who's a fantastic young defenseman in the NHL. Oliver Ekman-Larsson can still get it done offensively too. Darcy Kemper looking like one of the best goaltenders the NHL has seen this season, and when healthy, he can really make a difference. Taylor Hall with something to prove, obviously wanting that big contract, whether it be with Arizona or in free agency. He has something to prove, and he's looked very strong. Phil Kessel, even though he hasn't put up a lot of points, I think there's still more left from him. And there's plenty of other guys in this lineup, whether it be the likes of Clayton Keller, of course, and you have other guys that are just really stepping up. Michael Grabner, who I absolutely love as a Rangers fan, killing it on the penalty kill, getting those goals. I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm sorry, Yotes fans. I'm rooting for you. I am. You're a great story. I think this is awesome for your player development going forward, having this playoff experience. But this Colorado Avalanche team is just simply dominant. I'm taking the Avs in 6. Next up, we have one of the other games that already happened, and that is, of course, the 3rd seed Dallas Stars facing off against the 6th seed Calgary Flames. This is a very intriguing series, too. Dallas Stars not looking really good in that round robin, as I honestly figured. That offense has just not been there all year long, and it has been evident since they returned to play in the round robin, and it is kind of evident again in the first game that they played against Calgary, with the Flames, of course, winning 3-2. But it was a very tight and close game, really could have went either way. But at the end of the day, this Dallas team just worries me. They don't have enough goal scoring. They're too front-loaded. Tyler Seguin is not performing like he has in years prior. Jamie Benn, of course, we know the story there. Joe Pavelski in the latter years of his career. Roope Hintz, who I'm a big fan of, but how much are they expecting out of him? Other guys in this lineup like Denis Gurianov, who they're banking on to be that guy goal scoring wise, when in reality he is more of a one-dimensional type player, at least at this juncture in his career. I'm worried. That defense is fantastic. Esa Lindell, Miro Heiskanen, Beast, John Klingberg. They have a stellar defense there in that goaltending tandem between Ben Bishop and Goudobin. Oh, baby, that's nice. But I just don't know if they're going to prevail here. Calgary's going in hot, no pun intended, from their series victory over the Winnipeg Jets. Of course, I think things would have been differently if Scheifele and Laine didn't get hurt. But regardless, the Flames played on their head, and they really impressed me in that series. And because of that, I had the Flames winning this series in 7, but I do think it will be a tight one. I think Johnny Hockey, as long as he continues to step up, which he has, Matthew Tkachuk, who's such a snarly guy to go up against, perfect for the time for playoffs. Sean Monahan, Dylan Dubé, really looking like he's starting to show what he's made of and has the potential to be in his young NHL career. Such a speedy guy, too. Mangiapane, Elias Lindholm, Mikkel Backlund, who's one of the better two-way centermen in the game. And Milan Lucic's been looking solid, too. It's crazy how that trade has turned out for them. And that defense, of course, whether it be led by Mark Giordano, the captain, unreal player, other guys in that lineup, and, of course, Cam Talbot really looking strong. And David Rittich coming in if he needs to. I'm okay with that. I love what Cam Talbot's been doing, but this team, I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win in 7. I think they're going to send Dallas home packing in that first round. I'm sorry, Stars fan. Like I said, this could go any other way, but I personally am picking the Flames, regardless of their win today, because I had in my bracket already before these games started, the Flames winning this series. And last but not least, we have the Stanley Cup champs from last season, and of course the St. Louis Blues being the 4th seed, facing off against the 5th seed Vancouver Canucks. This series has the chance to surprise many. Now let's start here. You have the St. Louis Blues, who have Vladdy Tarasenko back. Regardless, I don't know why I'm confusing myself here. Tarasenko back and healthy. I think it's because he's been gone so long. Back and healthy. That's huge for the St. Louis Blues team, who still had an amazing season without their top goal scorer in the lab. Now he's back. You add him in that mix between David Perron, who's a 30-plus goal scorer, can get it done, especially at the playoff level. He can make it happen. Ryan O'Reilly, one of the best two-way centermen in the game, can still get it done. Braden Shen, so underrated. That trade is still so lopsided. I'm not going to talk about that now, but what an amazing player he's really becoming. They have so many weapons in that bottom six. I love everything there, whether it be Oscar Sundqvist, Ivan Barbashev, Zach Sanford, the list goes on, and of course, Robert Thomas, and of course, Sammy Blais. Oh, so many nice guys. And Tyler Bozak even is looking solid. Alexander Pietrangelo on his contract year. He's going to continue to step up. One of the top 5 defensemen in the league this season, in my opinion. Really looking strong as a great two-way defenseman. Colton Parayko. The list goes on and on, guys. Vince Dunn, Jordan Binnington. Oh, Jake Allen. Oh, you just got to love that lineup. Then they're going up against Vancouver with, of course, a very young and promising future, led the way by the rookie phenom who will most likely win the Calder if it's not Cale Makar. That is in, of course, Quinn Hughes. Amazing rookie season, 53 points. Fantastic. And of course, Jacob Markstrom looking like the #1 goaltender on a contract year as well. Hoping Vancouver resigns him. Let's see what happens there as long as he continues his play. Vezina caliber by some, and I don't blame them at all for thinking that. Elias Pettersson getting it done. JT Miller stepping up big. Bo Horvat, Brock Besser starting to put up in the goal scoring category. They can get it done, but the St. Louis Blues are winning this series in 6. I'm sorry, Vancouver Canucks fans. You've had a very impressive run. This is great for your future going forward with having this kind of playoff experience, but the St. Louis Blues are not going out without a fight this year. They're going to have a deep playoff run regardless if you want to believe it or not. And look, I could be a fool looking back on this if Vancouver wins, but I feel fairly confident in the St. Louis Blues team, even with all these qualifying rounds basically going the opposite of what I expected besides 1 or 2. But with those things being said, that's going to conclude this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you agree with my picks, my predictions, or not? Feel free to let me know. And if you haven't checked out my previous videos, make sure you do. I have a lot of great ones. I have plenty more that are going to be uploaded very, very soon. So thank you all again, guys. Thank you for 300 subscribers. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, as I said, if you want more hockey content like this. And I will be back very, very soon.